Hey everybody, this is Brett and Kate. We're having a discussion that we decided after we talked about it for about 25 minutes that maybe we ought to record some of this. So bear with us here. We're talking about music and how emotion gets attached to music and what coding may or may not be a part of the emotional response, the reason why certain songs evoke emotion the way they do. And we're talking specifically about a Pink Floyd song that I've performed many times over the years called Comfortably Numb that seems to always affect people in an emotional manner. And we're kind of deep in the weeds on why that might be. And Kate was about to say something interesting and profound, most likely. So go ahead. No pressure.
Oh man, I feel like we should have started way earlier. Yeah, we were talking about how because like in my own journey, multiple readers and energy workers have read in about because I being Brett being a musician, me being a visual artist, is like coding the work that you're making, coding as in COD, and like not code. Anyway, with like energetics or like signatures, and we are talking about like how that like what because I don't really know if it's the actual material that you're using or if it's more the energetic signature and the intention that's in there. Um, but what we were going to say is that, like, if you look at music, like, music has always been healing. It's always been used as a healing tool. So even for like, because Brett was just sharing a story about how he is like had an extreme emotional response and or cried, like when he was doing like the solo of Comfortably Numb. And we're talking about how, like, as you're playing that, like, that's actually going through you and doing its own healing, like based off of the signature that's in the song. And when I say signature, I mean like the frequency that's embedded in it, not necessarily the lyrics or the notes. But then again, is that what is creating the frequency? That was kind of our discussion. Is it just like purely intention? Because then you look at, because I look at I mean, everyone's heard like the Rothschild where they've changed the frequency of radio. They've changed it on purpose. It went from like a healing vibration to a disruptive vibration. And that was done with full intention. And we were sort of talking about how is music that is quote unquote mainstream or coming from larger corporations, like, is it holding a, I wouldn't say it doesn't hold a signature, but I would say that does it hold a disruptive and or purposely confusing signature so that it's not as healing anymore? Because I feel like music is such like it is just like one of the biggest impactful things, like almost, yeah, like we were saying before, I think it's even more so than say like visual art or um like those like because I think we just have it, or like even writing. Even I feel like music just is really it's like such a transformative and transportive modality that it makes sense that it would be hit hard in an industry to change that and disrupt it, because it is sort of like living magic, and it is. But going back to coding, is it what, how do you code a piece? Like, what is the code? Like, how,
See
like,
that requires a lot of forethought, and is the coding achieved through intention, or is it all because now I don't know the personal details of the gentleman who created the music for Comfortably Numb. That's David Gilmour, the Pink Floyd's guitar player, wrote the music, wrote all of it, and he did it in an oddly tuned 12-string acoustic guitar. In fact, it's still to this day only tuned for that one song. Um, so I don't. I mean, I've written a lot of songs over the years, and some of them have emotional impacts on me that are similar, but never anything as deep or as profound as what performing that song is for me. And that's why it's puzzling to me, because I can understand the relationship between me and the songs I've written, I know what those were about. I understand why I said what I said lyrically, why I did what I did musically, all of that. Whereas Comfortably Numb is not really my work. It's something that I've adapted to and altered minutely to satisfy my own style of playing, etc. But it's not my work. It will never be my work. I wish I could have created that, but it wasn't me. But every time I perform it, there's this emotional reaction from not just myself as the performer, but from the audiences that hear it. And it's always something, it's never just a little bit, it's always like really powerful. What you all don't know is that you can go on my Instagram and there's a video from that a gentleman recorded of me performing Comfortably Numb that I shared on Instagram last week. And you can go check that out and see for yourself kind of what we're talking about. Although in that one, I didn't get emotional during that particular performance until later that night when I was thinking about it. And then I just bawled like a baby. It's like, because you remember the feeling in a way that for other songs, I just don't experience.
Which gives, I mean, another question too, because I mean, if we're talking like the energetics and you have this performer, I mean, if you think about, remind me of the singer's name again.
Well, the one who wrote the lyrics was Roger Waters. He sang the verse and David Gilmour sang the chorus.
So like if you have these two performers who channel this and like sort of like, I guess, inseminate it into a crowd, and then obviously other musicians make it, like it makes me wonder if it's not just a strong enough, it's like now it's just like an open portal, if like it's like coded to like open. So if you're playing that song, like it's actually opening up the same portal that's like that. Because I mean, we're like Brett played a little bit for me earlier. We should have. I feel like we should have. We really should have started record. There's a lot. There's, a, but
we can make up for it in another episode. I promise.
One of the things that was interesting was that we were kind of doing an experiment on this, and so he played it, and for me, I was like, oh man, like the emotion that comes through is relief. Like you're just feeling this like relief of like anything that you're kind of like carrying to this point, or like all of like the worries, and then all of a sudden it was like, whew, okay, like I can put this down for a second and I just can feel some relief. And then when I heard about like what the song is about, like it's actually kind of funny that like I'm over here like having relief from an existential crisis, and then the actual performer is having relief from like a stomach
bug.
But I think it just shows that the emotion of relief out of like that the code in there is relief regardless of what you're dealing with. And so that's why it's a very powerful song, because a lot of people haven't felt relief. But I was going to say this even in like visual art, like I was just at a couple weeks ago, I was in DC and was at the National Gallery. And I mean, you're looking at this gallery that's like full. I mean, full of thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of art. And you're just kind of wandering through these rooms going, that's cool. That's a beautiful painting. Oh, that's an interesting technique. And then I got to this one room and like I got in front of this one artist and it like stopped me in my tracks. And it wasn't even the most like technique driven. Like it wasn't the most like it was actually very soft. It was like not a very loud or vibrant painting or series on the wall. But I was in that room for about 20 minutes in front of these pieces. And I just kept kind of going. And I just be like, I got to go look at this other one. I got to go look at this other one. I got to go back to that one. And there's just something, and every once in a while, like you'll get to these pieces that you'll just stand in front of for like 10 minutes. And you're just going, what is it about this? But I have to be here in front of this work and I have to just take it in. And it gets to a point where you're not even looking at the actual work anymore. You're just in front of it because you need to be. And then all of a sudden you have a moment where you're like, okay, I think I've gotten everything from this. And so that's where I think about like coding, because even looking, the ones I was gonna pull up the name of it, because I was looking at it was Louis, I'm going to butcher this, Louis Maurice Boutet de Monval. And it's the painting from 1850, or he's a French painter, 1850 to 1913. This piece was made in 1907. And it was just, and it was like almost like a colored pencil with gold leaf, like very light, very nondescript. And it just, like, I think that was a moment because I've been kind of playing with this in my own work. I'm on like, how do you code artwork? Like, what does that mean? And what does it mean to be in front of a piece that is coded versus a piece that isn't? Or a piece that's coded for you versus a piece that's not coded for you? Because I think all of them are coded with something, but it's a matter of, is that a resonance to you? Whereas like these pieces, like I couldn't get enough of them in that room. And I think it's the same thing with like the Pink Floyd song, where it's like for some people that song is just, it's their direct coding. So it's like their, so it's interesting because yeah, I mean it's about to go into some experiments on what's a coded piece? Like, how do people that are coded for it react to it? Like, how do you code a piece, or does it just unconsciously happen and then it's like out in the world doing its thing? I don't know. This is
And
interesting.
part of what we were talking about earlier dovetails beautifully with what Kate's saying, because there's this trend on YouTube where these people, younger people, much younger than me, around Kate's age or younger, who've heard about these classic rock and roll, this classic rock music, but they were never exposed to it. Most of them grew up in who do these videos, they were either trained classically in music. There's a lot of vocal coaches who do those kind of videos. And then there's a lot of rap people that's all they've heard was hip hop and rap. And now they're being exposed to this, what I would call in my mind, real music. And what makes it real is to me has always been the emotion that it evoked. And it's hard for me, and Kate can bear witness to that. There are times when I'm even speaking about the emotions that I've experienced or feel while I'm performing that song. And I can get emotional just in the telling of it. That's why you saw me wiping my eyes earlier. I was thinking about the last time I played that here this morning, and how when it came time to play the big solo, there was that flash of white light that I've mentioned before, right when it kicks off. And at the end of it, I was a bit weepy because it's such a powerful feeling. And it's not a negative feeling. That's the part that's really incredible. I never feel like I've depleted myself or that I burned up all sorts of positive energy while playing it. I feel like I channeled an important message, would probably be more accurate to say. And it resonates with every fiber of my existence in ways that nothing else ever has. And I love a lot of other great classic stuff. I mentioned Kate earlier before we started recording, the Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. Well, there's a number of Led Zeppelin songs that evoke enormous amount of emotion. Going to California comes to mind, along with a bunch of others. But as much as I always loved that music, it never had that kind of emotional impact on me that this one song that Pink Floyd created, and I loved all of Pink Floyd's. They had like a 4 or 5 album stretch there, and I knew every note, memorized it in my head. It's just beautiful stuff, but it still doesn't have the impact that one song does. And I remember listening to that album. This was dating myself. This is like my freshman year in college, 1979 into the spring of 1980, when that album came out, The Wall. And just hearing the studio version of that, I would find myself playing it over and over and over again. And I wasn't even playing guitar much at that time at all. Definitely not to the level I am now. I was a drunk college kid most of the time, in fact.
Right. I mean, even like I always think about, so in like, I mean, going even to rap, I guess, like even going into like sort of the pop, like, and maybe it like comes to almost like authenticity because like there are I always think of Maxida Maroc is one of my like favorite examples of this, and she's like a Sami Swedish artist from Sweden who's a rap artist. But like when you listen to her music, like because in Sami culture they have yoiking, and yoiking is where you don't like there's no words. It's just like you use your voice and you use that to express an emotion. And she has a song that's about her daughter, like her being a mother, and like it's about her daughter and like that whole relationship where she like yoiks the entire thing. There's no words. It's just like her like using her voice. And that song, every time I listen to it, like brings me to tears because it's just like and even if she is saying something in there, I don't understand it. Like it's all in Swedish, but it's like, but it's it like just like that, like it's once again, like that's a song that you're like, oh, there's a code in this that doesn't matter if you don't speak the language. It doesn't matter if you um I mean, I have no idea how music is made whatsoever. I don't know any of the things.
Chords and notes. It's chords and notes. That's
I
really
have no
all it
idea,
is.
which I like to actually, I always joke, I'm like, I like to keep it that way because like anything that's like designed or built, like my little brain's like, okay, how do they do that? Okay, I figured out how they do that. Whereas music, I'm like, I just want to take it in and enjoy it and not deconstruct this thing. But yeah, so and I even look at like a lot of like all the rap artists it feels like that are underground that aren't connected to a label or and not only that are adamantly against being with a label. Like those are the, and when you listen to their rap songs, there's like you're like, oh my gosh, like these are also coded. Like even I think it was Ren that I showed you the other day. Like he has a
Hmm.
lot of like I mean he's like all over the board, but he when he raps, like you're like, oh my goodness, like that too is there's something in there that you're like, this isn't normal rap. Like this isn't like this is a different there's something else going on here. Granted, it's the same, it's a beat, he's
Right.
rhyming. He's but like when you listen to it, you're like, no, like there's a part of you that feels that this is an entirely different structure of a song because I think the signature has an honesty to it. Whereas like a lot of what we hear in mainstream, there's really it's
It's,
not
it
there's
has no meaning. It has no
there's
emotional
something
value.
missing or there's something nefarious in it. I think that's kind of the thing where it's like it's either there's a part of you that registers that it's just not your like it just isn't for you or I don't know. I like it fascinates me too because even everything that we sort of have like there's so many conspiracies about the industry with like within the music industry about like what they're doing and like how they're creating new artists and like who they're going after to create new artists and how they get the fame and then I think it's an interesting study of like how things are coded and how they're not coded and I don't know it's like an experiment like it's a journey.
Well, in my mind, as this conversation has continued, I've been thinking back to the different sections of that big, enormous solo in Comfortably Numb. And I'm recalling the parts that in general evoke the most emotion for me while I'm performing. And there are moments where the music is depicting pain and agony and discomfort, but then it's always comes back to the triumph over that. Those peaks, those pinnacles, when certain notes are played in an expressive way. And then you could see in the video that I've referred to, there are places in that I'm 63 plus years old. I should not be jumping up and down during a performance on concrete for any reason. But, and I've never, hey, I think tonight when we play this song, I'm going to jump up and down and act like a fool. That's just not how I operate. But it happened. There's visual evidence that my old butt was jumping up and down like I was 40 years younger. And interestingly enough, I didn't pay for that the day after. there was no discomfort in me whatsoever. But I think back and listen to that in my head, and I can see the emotional peaks and valleys within that. And I've got to agree with you that something was coded into each one of those peaks and to each one of those valleys that are painful places to be for the listener if they're resonating with it. But then you come to the climactic part where the healing lays, I think. If I'm following you as I think I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, for instance, like right now, because this is something where I was telling Brett earlier in this, where I had a couple of theta practitioners like do different sessions throughout the last 2 years and at different time points of my life. And they've been saying things about like, you have you have a future in coding artwork. Like when you make artwork, it's coded, like it changes whatever room it's in, it changes the frequency of that room. Whoever observes it, whether they realize it or not, it's changing something within them when they're around this piece. And at first, when I like heard that, I was like, okay, like how, okay, like what are you supposed to do? Like breathe over it? Like what, like how does that even, what do you mean code and artwork? Like you just go in the studio and you make it and that's it. And but then like recently, like right now I'm working on a piece, and like most of my pieces have been more for like myself and my own journey. Like I'll be making pieces that sort of tell my story. And then recently I started doing a painting that I could tell was different, because in the painting, I'm like, I just want to be very joyful. This is playful. This is for the people that see it. This isn't for like me and my story. Like this is about the people that are going, but not in a way that's like edited, but in a way of like, people like need to remember that joy and delight are very important. Like they need to remember that like the sort of the novelty of being a child, or like of like, and sort of, so like as I was making this painting, I was like, oh, I think I get it. Like I think I get like what they mean by coding a piece for the people that it's needed for, versus just making a piece to make the piece. I don't know, it's very but I think it's like so many different, because sometimes you make like even this piece is like you make a piece that it's just coded for relief. That's it. Like give some people some relief. Everyone I know could use some relief all the time. And then you have ones that are coded for joy, and maybe most people who are closed off to joy don't resonate with the piece at all because they're not open to that emotion. They don't want that emotion. But then there's people that are seeking it, that are just gravitated. And then if you have sort of a piece that's coded with pain, it's going to grab everybody who's in pain, but the people that aren't really in pain are going to be like, I didn't really, or like ones that are coded for chaos are going to like get everybody who's carrying that. And then the people that are actually actively going, I don't really want chaos in my life, are like, I don't really like this song. Like one of the ones, one of the big names to bring up, which I think is always interesting, is Beyonce, because like you look at the amount of people, like as an artist, like I can like you listen to her work and you're like, okay, like I can see, even I can see what you're doing artistically here, like with the piece. Like I get you did something here, but I'm not drawn to it. But then
Mm-hmm.
you have hordes of people that are like diehards that are just, and that's one where it's like, well, what's in your piece? Like what's coded in there that's grabbing millions of people? And then a lot of people that are like more energetic are like, I don't really like this. Like, not really a fan of this. Like, I don't know why. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's a good song. Like, it sounds good. But whenever I play it, I feel weird. Like, I don't feel very good. Like, I don't feel very, like, I feel like, ugh, I don't want to finish this song. So, anyway.
Some of us, our physiology picks up on the negativity or the part that we don't resonate with very specifically. And I think that's very telling about, why humans like some styles of music and other styles of music. Just like for me, rap has never been musical. It's rhythmic. I give it that. It's very rhythmic, but it doesn't meet my definition of musical. It technically meets the dictionary definition of music, because it is planned. It's not just chaotic noises. So that technically meets the musical definition. But one thing I would encourage everybody before I forget this, if you haven't heard it, go find a copy, or you could rent it on Amazon. We actually bought our own copy of it. The Pink Floyd live concert, The Delicate Sound of Thunder, because not just for the Comfortably Numb thing, which I would encourage people to listen to. It's toward the end of the movie, but there were a lot of those performances in that show that had an emotional. They're not things that I perform, but for instance, there's this song called "Great Gig in the Sky," where basically what a woman does is she screams out melodically as she's dying, and it fits the music so beautifully. You got this beautiful piano piece with steel guitar underneath it, nothing loud, very gentle, etc. And then you hear these incredible voices on that particular album, the live thing. There's 3 different female backup singers who all get to take a turn at singing part of that song. And it's extremely, get my tissue out. It's very emotional to listen to for most people. For me, it's just similar to talking. Just look at me now. I haven't listened to that in ages. It's not something I listen to constantly because it always evokes a tearful emotion out of me because it's so beautiful to me, And I've often thought, man, if that's how I got to go out, with those sounds in my ears, that's exactly how I'd want to go out. Because it's not a sadness. It's an understanding. But it's so emotionally powerful. And there are no lyrics. There are no words. It's kind of in the keeping of what you were describing with the Swedish lady. It's just voice expressing emotion. And it's, if you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you go listen to that as well. Plus, there's other stuff in there, that I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't coded, not intentionally, because I don't think they really understood what they were creating. I think that's true with a lot of artists from that era. They just created. They weren't thinking, well, this is really going to be epic. They were just, hey, well, the record company let us put this on a record.
Which makes me wonder, I mean, you would be an interesting experiment for the week of if you're because I know you do morning blues, and it'd be interesting if almost like tapping in and going like what happens if we consciously code this piece and see what happens. Like if it's this piece has I mean, I know for me, I can tapping into the 7th and going we're downloading the following things into this painting. That's we're gonna download it. But I'm curious if same, because I know you already when you do from source and you sort of see that flash of light, but I'm almost curious if before you play in meditation you set up the code ahead of time, or I'm trying to think how how do you actually physically go about going, I'm gonna code this piece?
Well,
or is that
I
not?
I can tell you for sure, this is my morning routine. I get up around 3:20 a.m. If I need to take a shower, I'll take one, then I'll cook breakfast. Otherwise, I just go straight to cooking breakfast. Then after I eat my breakfast, I go meditate, preferably in one of the temples if the weather permits. Then I come in, then I go about moving the stuff around so that I can record and make the morning blues video. But I'm not thinking about the meditation in any way. I'm just thinking, okay, what key did I play in the last couple of days so that I can be certain not to play in the same key 2 mornings in a row? That's really all the thought that goes into it. And then I listen to it, and if I'm resonating with the recording without playing against it. Then I'll check volumes and play a few, a few measures of it and jam along with it just to make sure the volumes are right. And then I just sit down and it's, like you hear me say, time to shut up and play. And then I don't think except to occasionally look up and see how close to the 10-minute mark I am, because I never want them to really go over 10 minutes, even though they could at some point. Mm-hmm. But I'm not conscious of what I'm performing. It's not until after the recording is done and I watch it that I make the determination, okay, I can go ahead and post this. I'm not, it's pure. Yeah, I know I've been told that I channel source when I'm playing. So that's all I can really say for sure I know I'm doing, is I'm channeling source energy while I'm playing. And there are a number of people who listen who have told me. One guy writes me specifically every morning in a DM. And like today, he said, I even got out my magnifying glass because I couldn't figure out how you were actually fretting all those notes you were playing, because it was resonating with him. Mm-hmm. Everything I post is resonating, which is wonderful. I'm happy that he's enjoying it. And he's even been motivated to start playing his bass along with it, to get his own musicianship back engaged and whatnot, which oh gosh, what a wonderful thing, to hear. You made me want to pick up my bass again and play along with you. That's wonderful. But the most important thing is that I've had at least 3 or 4 people, including this gentleman, tell me they experience real healing when they listen to those. And I'm like, that was never a thought. That's never I don't have an intention before I sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm hoping will happen. I just sit down and start playing. There's no really forethought to it, except let's don't be redundant with the key we're playing in. Because and then every 6th day, I play something that's in a major key and not a minor key, just to let people know everything's not a dirge.
Dirge. Here comes Nigel with the dirge.
Hey, I've got albums full of nothing but dirges that I wrote when I was unwell. Believe me, it's one way of getting that awfulness out of your system for a short period of time.
If you ever get a chance, there's this incredible book called Lamb by Christopher Moore. And it's the story of Jesus, but told from his best friend Biff.
Oh my, that sounds like a win.
It is, you will die laughing. Like, it is like the funniest, because it basically, it's like, here's Jesus, and it's like Jesus is a child and like growing up, and like basically he goes to like all of these masters to learn how to be Jesus, basically. And his friend goes with him, because basically it's an incredible story about like how this friend like loved Jesus so much. Like I mean, they were like best friends from childhood. But Biff is like the antithesis of everything. Like, he's a slut, he's a drunkard, he has no morals whatsoever. Like,
he's everything Jesus will never be.
And anyway, but there's this like really funny thing where they're like kind of down on their luck, and it's like, anyway, and the guy's like, he's like, Joshua, we need to sing a dirge. And Joshua's like, no dirges. And he's like, but that's my only talent. He's like, the only thing I brought, because he has like no skill whatsoever. So they're like traveling to go to they have to like go to like Nepal to see like the Buddha, or like just different, anyway. And so like, he's like, the only talent I have is to sing a dirge. And he's like, you don't even have that talent. It's like, so every time someone says dirge, I just think about that book. It's like the funniest. It's like,
I'm going to have to look that up and read it.
Oh, it is like, it is, as far as a piece of writing, it is geniusly done too. I mean, it is just one of those books that you're like, this was brilliant how you did this. But
that reminds me, I'm almost finished. It's going to take one more Monday at work for me to finish the last part of that Pullman series.
His Dark Materials.
Yeah, which has been, we've already had the battle on the plane. And then whatever comes after that's what's next. There's not many chapters left for me to listen to, but I have been very, very, very impressed with this story.
Are you on the
I would be. I knew I would be after you recommended I read it.
Actually, I should jump in. Like I usually listen to that like once a year, but it's been a couple years. I've been so obsessed with the Mirror Visitor series that I haven't.
What series?
The Mirror Visitors.
I haven't heard of that one. Is that another fantasy type kind of thing?
It's on par with Philip Pullman, but it's actually a French writer and it was translated to English. And it is the first, it's a very, I always tell everybody that the first two books are very good. I mean, they're very like as standalone stories, they're fascinating. But she like when you get to the third book, you realize everything she tucked into the first two. And then by the third and fourth book, you're getting into like some really deep, like spiritual, energetic questions that are just, and then the story, the characters are incredible. The design of the world is incredible. Like it's really, it's a stellar series. It's stellar. Like it just like, and your classic, it's kind of like the heroes that kind of shouldn't be kind of or like not in the fact that they're just so normal, like they're just so average that you're like, how are you like the center point of this story, like like how are, and it's yeah, and it's beautifully done. But well, not, I guess the one girl's average, the guy's not. But
do me a favor and text me the title and author of that, please, so that I can avail myself of that to listen to it after I complete this Pullman work, which has just been an incredibly well-written piece of literature. I have really enjoyed it. The juxtaposition between Lyra and her family and everybody, that the people who actually care about her are the ones who are doing everything they can to keep her protected, and the people who brought her into existence are doing everything they can to control her and keep her from doing what is her purpose, which is a screwed up way of looking at life when mom and dad are fighting against you and are even willing to kill you if necessary to keep you from fulfilling your life's purpose, which they still don't know what it is. I still don't know what that young girl's supposed to accomplish.
Are you still on the golden compass, or have you got to the amber spyglass yet?
Oh, I'm at the last book.
Oh, okay. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, they're the fighting and the killing's really gotten serious.
Yeah. Oh,
and some beautifully written scenes and situations. You're like, now how in the hell are they going to get out of this one? I'm not going to give any of it away in case somebody hears this. I highly encourage you to go. His Dark Materials is the name of the series.
Yeah.
There's a HBO series television series about that set of stories, which my wife and I watched the first couple of episodes, but it wasn't our HBO we were using, it was somebody else's, and then all that went away a couple of years ago, so we never really got to finish it.
It's nothing on the book. It's one of those ones that just the books are. Oh. And whenever I read something in quantum physics, I'm just always like, Philip Pullman had to have read this. Like he had to have studied quantum physics. Like the man had to have, like, just what he does with like souls and spirits and the elements of how worlds are created. It's just like yeah, like he's playing, what's the same? He's playing chess while the rest of us are playing checkers.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. But it's a wonderful story, and I know it's going to have a happy ending. It can't have a terribly sad ending, although I figure the bear bites the big one by the end. He's still alive. He hasn't died yet. There's always the the classic tragic death of one of the heroes that made it all possible, who acts as the sacrifice, let's say. Somebody's always got to die in order for the good guys to win. It always seems to include at least one, maybe more of those.
Hey, just don't start the Book of Dust series. Don't start that one yet.
I won't. So that was his follow-up. He continued writing about those. Oh, well, we're going to have to read those.
So the first book is how Lyra even ended up at Oxford to begin with. And then the second book of the series is life after everything. I won't give you the finals.
Okay, between her and Will. All right, that's cool.
And then the third book we're all still waiting for. We've been waiting for 5 years now for the third book. And he left it on the most ginormous cliffhanger I have ever experienced in a book. And so I always warn people, I'm like, don't do it, man. Don't do it. You'll be carrying that void for the rest of time if you start that.
Well, see, there's a series of books that I would encourage everybody to read if you haven't already. There's 14 books in this, and it's Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. Now, Robert Jordan died before the last 3 books could be completed. He had notes for all of it, but they had to bring in another author to finish it up for him. And a lot of people complained. I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought the guy, Sanderson's his last name. I can't remember his first name off the top of my head. Great writer. I thought he did a superlative job. He used all of Robert Jordan's notes and finished out the series. The books are 10,000 times better than that awful television rendition on Amazon Prime. No, it's not even close to the books. It's not.
Just when they get into fantasy, I'm always like, don't do it. Like, just don't touch it.
If you're not going to put in what really happened, if you're going to make up a bunch of stuff, if you're going to twist the story around, please do what Kate just said. Leave it alone. Because that's a beautiful story that should have only been told using the book material, and they added a bunch of stuff that was not a part of the story. And I haven't watched another episode of it. I didn't watch any of season 2, and I didn't watch any of season 3. I won't watch any of this. I don't care. Unless they do the last 3 years exactly like the last 3 books, I won't watch a minute of it anymore, because it's just moved so far away from the story, and it didn't make it better when it did that.
It's so interesting, because even talking about, because I think the other one it's coming up on my to be read is the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever.
Yeah, I told you about that.
Yeah, that one. I was gonna say, I was like, how I'm getting close to that one on my TBR here, but it's interesting too, because if we're talking about coding in pieces and like literature too, like if you just, like, anyone who's read a book and you get done with that book and you feel like you lost your best friend for you're just like and the ability that, this is what I say to any writer out there. If you're writing and you haven't tried to get it out in the world, just do, because every time I read a book that I close the book and I'm just like, that just changed my whole world. Like reading that book, something like the world collapsed around me and this book just reinvented something. And I think about all of the works of art that are sitting on someone's computer or sitting in somebody's notebook. And it's just I'm just thank goodness this writer got their work out into the world in some way. And it's not even always, sometimes even this will happen even on an online, a Wattpad situation where it's those online where people don't have a publisher, so they just start throwing their chapters up on a free thing. And there's been books on there too that I've read and I'm like, oh my goodness, this just changed my whole world.
Oh, absolutely. The
yeah.
Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever had a 25-year impact on me when I was mentally ill. that probably helped keep me alive in retrospect. Not because of the good stuff. The good stuff doesn't really happen in that book till the very end. And it's a dark journey to get to the very end. But once you get there, the payoff is extraordinary. And you're like, I was like relieved and thrilled with how beautiful the ending was.
Well, even, you know, I always kind of chuckle too, because like I even think about when it's sometimes I think when my guides like need to give me a message, and they always deliver it through like a fantasy book, because it's like when you're, you know, it's like you can learn so much and just like get such a message from a work of fiction that just it you're like, oh, I see why this character is in my life right now. Like, oh, I see why this, you know, this scenario is playing out in this book. It absolutely mirrors, like, it's so funny that this happened to be the month that I picked up this one book and read it. And here we are. Like, you know, it's just like it's amazing to me, like how things can be delivered through literature that comes through in your life. And
I think really we all get what we're supposed to get when we're supposed to get it, if we recognize the opportunity. I remember there's a series called The Bulgarian, and I picked up the very first book. It's when I was going to Marshall University, and it's before I moved to Johnson City, Tennessee, to live and work in the psychiatric field. And I picked the book up because I saw that it was a series, and I liked the cover. And I fell in love with that whole world and everybody, the main characters. There was this beautiful mix of humor with seriousness and all sorts of natural. Here's these powerful humans that have all these abilities, magical and whatnot, or they're stalwarts in battle and all this kind of stuff. And then when they're having regular conversation, they're just as goofy as regular people today. And it's just managed in a beautiful way. And the humor in it's just out of this world funny, and done in a way that's respectful to the story. It doesn't like take you away from the serious nature of things. It's written by a guy named David Eddings. He actually wrote several series about that particular world. There's the Bulgaria, there's the Mallorean, and then there's the final thing he does is when he writes about there were two main sorcerers, a father and a daughter. Each got their own individual book that kind of capped out the whole thing. And before he died, he said, if you want to hear any more adventures about those characters, you have to write it yourself, because I'm done. And then he like died 2 years later. He was an old man when he passed. He was one of those, he said, he wrote an interesting book on writing, which I found fascinating. He said, write 1 million words minimum. And after you write the 1 million words, then write your first book. Because then you'll be good at it and people will want to read it. But if you haven't written your 1 million words first, don't waste anybody's time. Mm-hmm. That was his attitude. And he sold gazillions of books. But he was smart enough to make sure that there were no movie rights given for it, because he didn't want his story altered.
That's a smart move.
So I thought, good for him. Anyway, this has been an awesome discussion, and not anything we planned. We didn't plan for any of this whatsoever. It just happened organically.
These are great. I really do enjoy like the visiting ones, because there's like a lot that just naturally comes out.
Well, we appreciate you hanging on with us here for this discussion, and there's going to be more, and we haven't stopped channeling. No, we have not. That will return when we feel like we have something to discuss, or that the beings have to discuss that warrants bringing them out. And we also think we're pretty interesting people too in our own right. And so these kinds of discussions come up, and we enjoy the crap out of it. We really do. I love them. Kate said she loves having them. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to record some of these. We've got a big 2-hour plus one that we're going to upload to you as soon as I get some artwork. Promise.
Cough, cough. That's my end.
That's all right. You've been busy. You've had work to do. It's no problem. It's not like we're on a fixed schedule or we're not under contract, so it's okay.
Well, if it gets to be too long, then it's like you lose the momentum. So, but we're here, still doing it. So.
But we appreciate you all very, very much for listening and watching. And if you have any comments, thoughts you'd like to share, any songs that not just resonate with you, but always invoke an emotional response within your existence, we'd love to hear about them, because that's a very precious gift, in my opinion, because not everybody gets to feel music like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts Source has given us, is the ability to experience music on a feeling level instead of just a surface level.
Yeah, I think, you know what's actually, I'm kind of chuckling about this conversation today, because I feel like it's one that like I really needed, because even yesterday when I was working on I was working on a painting yesterday, and sometimes I get in this like kind of where I'm like, what is like the point of this? Like, this is like, you know, sometimes like, I mean, especially like to any like artists or musicians or writers out there, and like you're working on a piece and then you just kind of get this thing of like, this is like the stupidest gift to have of all time. Like, if you think about, like, you know, like sometimes I'm just like, I'm like, I should like, I mean, you know, you look at like, you know, gifted lawyers or gifted doctors, or, and you're just like, and I got art. Like, that's the one I got. Like, it's like, oh yeah, you know, like you're going to go down there and be a really great artist, and it's going to like have all this impact. And sometimes you kind of do forget like the impact that the creations like have on people, and I'm sure like you also maybe had a moment where you're like, why, like I could have been like an accountant, man. Like, you know, like that, like, I mean, why wasn't that my driving passion in life, is like numbers and science? And meanwhile, I'm over here like paints. It's real amazing, you know? And like last night I was kind of just having a moment where I was just like, this is like, I mean, obviously I do it because I have to. Like, I mean, there's no way I can't make things. It's just like, it really is in me, and it really is like what I wake up to do every day. But sometimes I'm like, of all the dumbest things to have picked, you know, it's just like, really.
I so resonate with what you're saying. Oh my gosh, the days I've sat in here and I've worked on a songwriting or recording, and I'm just like pouring everything I've got into this. And then you hear the finished product and you're like, I can't believe I wasted so much time to create that. That's not acceptable. I can't let anybody hear this. This had potential, but I didn't fulfill the potential by any measure. No, nobody's going to hear that one. There's a lot on my multiple hard drives of music that were like that. Oh, this sounded so good. The music sounded so great. And then when I came up with the lyric, no, it just didn't work at all. There's a lot of those moments. But you can't not do it though. That's part of the growing. That's part of the learning. Not everything is meant to be successful, no matter how you define success.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I mean, even this discussion of like a beautiful reminder of like the art and the music and the writing, it really, I mean, it changes. Like I mean, the point of it is to like be a frequency to change people's lives without them getting hit on the head with it. And, you know, like, I mean, it really is. Yeah. So this conversation, I'm like, after on like here on the tail end of it, I'm like, oh yeah, like sort of like, this is why we do this. Like, this is why we make things. Like, this is why we spend hours in the studio, like to get the piece that actually resonates with people, to get the piece that actually, you know, moves something. And yeah, I don't know. So it's kind of interesting conversation for the day. It very much segues into my week. So on that note.
And we had fun anyway. Thank you all for watching. We'll get this out to you all as soon as we can. And I'm going to turn the recording off, and Kate and I will finish up our time together. And we'll be back hopefully next Tuesday, if not sooner. you never know with us, because she might have to travel clear across the country again. And she might even be close to us when she does this next time. Who knows? But appreciate y'all watching. Thank you so much. And I'm going to kill the recording.